empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. It is Wednesday. The team is getting after it. They have a huge stretch. They have to go out to Maryland, play a 3:30 game against the Terrapins, a place that, last time we were there, it's a lot closer than we expected. It was in the 50s. It was an overtime game. Dwayne Haskins, 3 rushing touchdowns, God rest his soul, played the game of his life at his home state. So we can be ready for whatever. Their last game, they lost 30-0 to Penn State, so we're not expecting much, but again, you never know. It's their Super Bowl. It's just another game for us en route to playing the Michigan Wolverines. My guest today is the great TJ Downing, and he is the guy whose dad played for the Michigan Wolverines, if you guys didn't know that. So he's got a very special rivalry there with his father, and it's a really neat story. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, talk a little bit about offensive guard play, and we're going to break down some of the Indiana game and some of the improvements that we've seen on the offensive line with the addition of Josh Fryer playing at right tackle. That being said, as always, we are thankful and grateful for you guys. Thank you guys so much for all you guys do. Please like this content, like this video. It is huge for us. Our videos have been taking off and going crazy, all because of you guys liking it, commenting on it. Comment, what do you want to see out of the Maryland game? Do you want to see big defensive performance? Last time we were out there, we gave up 50. It was a Greg Schiano defense. Anthony McFarland ran for 300 yards. It was insane. That's all been fixed, hopefully. And who do you want to see, maybe get pulled early? We've got to have some guys that are healthy for the Michigan game. We've had a lot of trouble in the running back room with injuries, but let me know in the comments what you want out of this week before we get ready for the Blue Bellies, as always. And also shout out where you're from. I love when you guys do that, so thank you guys for doing that. That being said, I'm going to bring in former running mate, All-American offensive guard, TJ Downing, one of my great friends and a great analyst on BuckeyeScoop.com. TJ, how are you tonight?
Good, man. OG 7 Deuce in the house. You see it, repping 72, baby, all day, every day. That's 7 Deuce life, man.
Oh, dude, I love it. That's great. So it's funny that you have kind of an expertise on playing offensive guard, playing a very physical position, a position where it's close quarters at all times, and you're very well versed in what it takes to get an inside push on short yardage. That's been an Achilles heel for us for the last couple of years. Last year, people thought it was because our guards were too tall. This year, we have new guards. I think it's a hand placement issue. I watched the Northwestern game multiple times, the coach's film, and our guys, I don't think that they're refitting their hands well. I don't think they're getting a good initial hand placement. Talk to the audience a little bit about the short yardage mentality. And again, I know that it's being tough and grunting and all that stuff, but give me some technical stuff that you would really hone in on when you're going against a guy like a Gabe Watson, like an Alan Branch, a big-time defensive tackle. Michigan's got a guy who's a freak show, really good D tackle. Talk a little bit about how you approach the week leading up to a really good D tackle, and how do you approach them in the short yardage game plan? So for those of you that are on audio, TJ did the sign of the cross, and then he looked like he took a pull off a bottle of whiskey, I think so.
Old granddad. Yeah, old granddad.
Yeah, he had a bottle of old granddad that he saw Alan Branch, and he weighed like about 370 pounds when we played him in 06. But what's your mindset when you really got to dig out and get a yard, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2? How does it change? How does Ohio State, how does Matt Jones and Donovan Jackson get better at it going forward as we start hitting some real competition with Michigan and into the playoffs?
Well, yeah, as you and I know, as we were always trained, it has to be the hands with the first step. So, one of the questions that I posed on one of the threads on BuckeyeScoop.com was the difference between Coach Stud and what he brought to the table as an offensive line coach compared to Coach Fry now. Are there different philosophies? Yes. Kirk, you played with 3-4 different NFL teams. I'm sure each one of those teams and coaches had a different type of philosophy for you. There was a different type of philosophy from what Jim Bowman coached, maybe compared to what the coach that was there at Ohio State before he got there. But that being said, to run the stretch properly, it always starts, and you know this, with getting the inside hand. Now, if you're going to get the inside hand of the defender, you have to be able to take the right first step. It has to allow your body to stay square to the line of scrimmage. So what we would call a lateral step, to be able to then shoot your hips, to be able to stop the inside hand of the guy over top of you, whether you're a tackle and you have a 5 technique, whether you're a guard and you have a 3 technique, however it may work out. You have to figure out a way to be able to not only stretch that guy, maintain the line of scrimmage, start to get a push, and all of that works with your hands and your feet together. We used to do that drill, what we call it hat and hands, and it was all about getting the inside hand of that defender. Now, Kirk, you know, as being a former offensive tackle, when you come off against a 5 technique, or let's say even a guy that wants to widen out a little bit to whatever you call a 6, 7 wide rush guy, to be able to get that inside hand and keep him square, it doesn't always work that way. So then at that point, when that guy has made up his mind that he is not going to let you reach him or stretch him out, then you have to still get that inside hand, and now you just turn to the sidelines and drive out. So you create different gaps and lanes. Ideally, you would like to be able to stretch the defensive end, stretch the front side defensive tackle or 1 technique up to the 2nd level. So a lot of technical things go into it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I think as you and I were trained and taught, to be able to take a flat step, to allow you to be able to see for a split second what the defensive line and the linebackers are doing in front of you, whether they're stunting, they're blitzing, they're slanting, whatever type of uh, uh, trickery they may be trying to pull. That quick flat step allows you to read that. And then shooting inside hand, shooting your hips, shooting on your 2nd step allows you to be able to reach guys and move them off the line of scrimmage without getting pushed back. Because if you start laterally, technically that guy could be coming right at you and pushing you backwards. There's a technique to it. You know as well as I do, it's not easy, but when it works really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it all comes down to your hands. I think footwork's important, but if you're, a lot of times when these guys are getting blown off the ball or pushed back, it's because their hands are terrible. Their hands are, the defenders are getting their hands in their chest. If you cut the arms off of defensive linemen by getting their hands as you take your initial steps, they can't do anything. Their whole game plan is predicated on getting their hands in your chest and then being able to steer you. They want to shock you, shed you, get to their gaps. If it's like an outside zone play, they got to hold the C gap, the B gap, whatever. And you got to use that against them. Like that was something I knew. When we played teams like Wisconsin, a lot of these teams, their ends they're like heavy 5 techniques, which are 5 techniques that are right on the outside shoulder of the tackle. And when Jim Bowman used to ask us what are our favorite plays, I'd always say stretch, like run 36 lead, 36 plus, like. Because then, like, I'm like at the focal. I'm the guy that has to get it done. I'm the guy that has to stretch the guy out and create the hole. And usually when you run that play, it never really goes outside the tackle because most of these ends aren't going to let you reach them unless they're just absolutely terrible. Which when you're playing in the Big Ten against Wisconsin, when Wisconsin used to be good, you're not going to reach those guys. But you're going to run them into the sideline, and there's going to be a crease somewhere that Beanie or Antonio Pittman could put their foot in the ground and find and go get a lot of yardage. And there was a point in my senior year when we played Wisconsin, they overplayed it so hard with their linebackers that Beanie cut back twice for runs of 2 60-yard touchdown runs against Wisconsin because they were like selling out for the front side of the stretch play. And Beanie recognized and put his foot in the ground and he went backside and there's just nobody home. So I think that
was that in Camp Randall? Was that in Camp Randall?
No, I never got to play Camp Randall. No, we played at home in 07. But that was, again, they had a really good defense. It was Bielema. I think it was Bielema's first year, and they were tough. They were a good opponent, and we were able to beat them down just because they were teams. Again, when teams self scout you when they've got 7-8 games on you, they know what your bread and butter is. They knew that they like to run front side to my side, and they knew we liked to run that stretch play. So their linebackers were just flying on the side of the ball. So. There's a little bit of risk and reward when you do that because if we do keep it front side like we had done, then all of a sudden, it's going to be 2 yards or tackle for a loss. But Beanie was smart enough to cut it back where there was nobody, and it was off to the races. He ran for like 220 yards against Wisconsin, and then it's kind of just a give and take. But I think that our 2 interior guys, they're Matt's a first year starter. Donovan Jackson is he's a young guy, sophomore, 19-year-old playing a tough position where, if it's 3rd and 1 and we don't get it, everybody looks at the two guards, they look at the interior guys, and sometimes I don't think that's fair when it's a loser play. Now granted, there are sometimes where they just have to play better. They have to be better with their technique. And again, I'm not just a big overarching, hey, they stink, hey, they got to play better. It's like, no, what do they have to do better? They got to get their hands right. They're coming off the ball, but if you come off the ball and don't get your hands right, you're going to get stood up, and guys from Northwestern that have no NFL futures are going to actually look decent against you. So as we progress to Michigan and get into the playoffs, and we see Tennessee, TCU, Georgia, whoever we see in the first round, potentially in the championship, you got to get those hands going, because you're going to be playing like real guys. Like Georgia has real guys. They don't have Northwestern accountants and lawyers and attorneys. And
you better be living right, man. I mean,
Yeah.
these offensive linemen ain't living right. I think they need more trips to Hooters. I think they need more chicken wings. I think they need more ranch. I think they need maybe a little bit of Patron. I don't know. Here's the thing, man. I mean, there's just an overall toughness and an attitude that you have to bring to the line of scrimmage when you are a starting offensive lineman for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and the entire country has their eyes on you. When you break the huddle and you walk to the line of scrimmage, if you are not walking up there with a swag that says, I am the best offensive line in the country, I am the best offensive lineman at my position in the country, you should not be out there, because that is really the expectation in the bar when you're at Ohio State. So yeah, I get it with some guys doing like, your first year starting, there's a learning curve and there's a process, and baby Zeus out of Princeton over there, he's a few minutes away from Cincinnati, so he's away from mama, and it gets a little tough on your first year out there, but as a 19, I don't care if you're 19 years old. I don't care if you're a 5th-year senior, 22, graduate. If you're, starting at 18 years old, if you are breaking that huddle and you're walking the line of scrimmage as a starting offensive lineman for Ohio State, and you do not have an attitude that you want to dominate and impose your will and physically punish the person across from you, you shouldn't be out there. And at times, I feel like I have not seen guys that had that attitude.
Yeah, and I think that if some of these guys are lacking confidence, I think some of these guys, they get beat down in the social media scene, in the fan scene, and honestly, sometimes you just have to fake it till you make it. You gotta, if you really aren't the baddest.
Doug Yardage did? Is that what Doug Yardage did?
I mean, shit, I did it. I mean, when I was 19 and I had to go block Mario Williams and Erasmus James and Tom Holly, I was like, these guys are first round. These guys are really good, and it's like I was not very good. So it's like you better, but you can't go out there. You can't let them smell the fear, because I mean that ain't gonna help you. So you gotta.
That's like a great white man when they see blood in the water, dude. That's when the sharks come out.
Yeah, I mean you can't. Even if it's like, oh my god, it's like. In 2004, I played the hardest schedule in Ohio State history in terms of the talent I had to go against. And I was a freshman. I'm like, holy shit. I was like, I hope it gets easier, because like this sucks. Trent Cole, Tom Bahali, like go look up where those guys got drafted. Go look up how many Pro Bowls they went to. Mario
Andre
Williams,
Frazier, bro. Andre Frazier. Come on,
man. Yeah, but he wasn't. Trent Cole's a Pro Bowler. That's a different world.
I heard when they asked Doug Yardage what play he wanted to run, he said 36 as well. So he can be on the backside.
Oh shit! Yeah, I forget what you do. I thought it was like when he was playing center or when he's playing left guard tackle. No, it was I don't know. It just is what it is. But I think that the thing that'll ramp up is these guys got Maryland, and Maryland actually has a couple of guys that are decent, and then you've got Michigan, who's going to be they're not going to be as strong as last year when they had the two really good edge guys with Aiden Hutchinson and the kid that went to the Ravens who tore his Achilles. But they've got Mozzie Smith is a monster in the middle, big heavy guy. He's like a Bruce Feldman freak. They said, and of all the BS I've ever heard in the history of my life, they said that he's like 330 pounds. He has a 44-inch vertical. And I'm like, there's just no way in hell. There's not. Come on, dude. Like a 40. I mean, you know how good that is. That's like what Donald Washington had when he broke the combine record. Like this, there ain't no 330-pound guy jumping 44 inches. Like Zion doesn't even do that.
I'm gonna defer to Isaac Newton or Galileo or somebody like that's against the laws of physics.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, we're gonna bust a couple plays real quick. This is a nice look. This is something that when I worked with Urban and Tom Herman and those guys, they really were big on playing football in space, which is something when TJ and I played with Jim Tressel. I mean, we generally had a fullback, a tight end. A ton of extra guys in the box. So it's basically like we'd always have a heavy box. Here, This is a great look because you got your two receivers basically on the sideline. You got Marv down here. He's eyeballing Marv. So these guys are basically out of the picture. He's out of the picture. He's checking Marv. So you basically have, you got your read guy who's here. You've got, Cade coming back to they call this cab the back end. And you just have a nice easy zone play, which I love this because you got a nice clean look. You get the read here. CJ can pull it. We'll let it run. Again, this is a nice easy double team on the backside. I mean, Matt Jones doesn't even touch the three technique, who kind of loops out to the right tackle, so that's easy. Center's working front side of the linebacker. They run this is literally the perfect call because when they run, it's basically like a TE. They literally stunt themselves out of the play. Like, I mean, you could there. Yeah, I mean, the end literally hooks himself by doing that because they think it's a tight zone, and initially it is a tight zone, but when this three technique is the guy that has to keep contain, I mean, that's easy peasy for a guy. And then you've got, you see the coverage they're running this two, so you got the safety split. And so basically it's like you just have this giant freeway created for Dallin Hayden. And again, this is really easy for Donovan Jackson. I mean, he gets the hook here.
I'm really wondering, like, what is the front side linebacker for Indiana doing, knowing that your defensive end is going to be pinching and that basically the three technique, as you mentioned, Kirk, is going to have contain. I mean, that's just get the three technique reached, and you're going to probably walk into the end zone unless the linebacker stays outside. Like, the dude just runs inside and basically just says, whatever, I'm not. I mean, that front side linebacker should easily be able to scrape out there and be waiting to make that play against a good team like Michigan. That will be there. So that's where you're going to have to brush some things up.
Yeah, and that's like the beauty of having Marvin Harrison down at the bottom of the screen is that it draws an immediate double team. I mean, when they're down in the tight red area, they're double teaming him on every snap. So really, he could just, run a route out here and be fine with it. Like, he doesn't even need to, this corner's kind of, I mean, he's not really firing. It's not really a blitz, but he's reading the run. I think that he's coming here for CJ in case CJ does pull it. Because this is, I mean, by letter of the law, based on this end, this would be a pull read. So I think Marvin's trying to dig him out if he does pull it. But, it freezes this guy for a second. But again, there's just, this guy's hips are turned. This guy's out here. No one's going to be able to beat Dallin, into the end zone. And again, it's just a nice, easy, I mean, he doesn't even get touched. So again, that's the benefit to having that nice spread out safety look here. So this is something that I love that Jim Knowles does. And I study this like crazy. He runs this look. It's called a jack. So the jack defense it's funny because it actually stars Jack Sawyer, who I believe is right there as like a three technique. Yeah. And he gets it's not a sack. It's a running back recovers it. So they put JT Tuimoloau, who's probably our best player on defense other than Tommy Eichenberg. They put Zach Harrison here at end. They put whoever at D tackle. And then they put Jack Sawyer at the jack. And the jack is kind of like it's a hybrid linebacker, but he aligns at the depth of a three technique, like a defensive tackle. And his job is basically to go wherever he wants, and he's got rules, if there's a guard pull, if there's backside zone, if this guard were to pull, then his job is to follow the guard into the hole. So it's really a pain to go against blocking scheme wise. I think that Michigan's going to see a lot of this because you still have your down safety. This is Steele. This is Tommy, Jack. So you got your three best defensive ends are on the field at once, and he's literally unaccounted for. So when you trigger these guys on the backside and Jack fires here, like, I mean, if they don't. If they do hand this off, I mean, Jack's probably making a tackle for a loss because the tackle doesn't come off on him in time, and he almost gets a fumble recovery. And Tehran's there, but I love this look because you get your three best defensive players, out there on the field.
It's kind of a lot like what Will Smith used to do. I mean, Will Smith, if you remember back in like 2002, was just like a traditional defensive end. And then going into 2003, kind of wanted to be able to show off his skill set and put it on display. So Coach Haycock had really decided to let him stand up at times, bounce around, kind of be like a three technique, but a stand-up three technique. And I mean, there's not a lot of offensive guards that were going to be able to match Will's strength and athleticism. So he beat a lot of those guys. They were never going to reach him. But the one thing that really kind of stuck out to me about Jim Knowles' defense, which I really respected because it's been different from the last couple of years, is that when Dexter Williams came in, he comes in, catches him off guard. You're going to deal with him again. Is this guy going to come out and do some Juice Williams type stuff like he did to you your senior year in Horseshoe? But I mean, we'll get off of that one. Dexter Williams comes in, has one good series, and maybe over the last couple of years with Kerry Coombs, he would have thought about changing some things around for like a quarter or two, kept it interesting, and just like been like, scratching your head, what are we doing defensively? No, Jim Knowles put his foot down, switched up the entire D, and put the pressure on Dexter, and added the extra linebacker in there with Cody Simon, and just changed the whole complexion of the defense for a new quarterback that just came in and totally screwed him over. So you got to love that as a defensive coordinator. He's got balls. He pulled the freaking trigger, and he changed his defense after one series because of the quarterback that came in. And there's not a lot of defensive coordinators out there that got the guts to be able to do that. So I got respect for that.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, thanks for bringing up the Juice Williams games. That was probably, I mean, the LSU game was tough, but the Juice Williams game was probably my hardest loss as a captain because it was in the Horseshoe and it was senior day. And what was, when you were at Ohio State, TJ, your senior, what was your hardest loss as a captain?
I wasn't a captain.
Oh, shit, my bad. Fuck. Oh, yeah, Doug was. My bad. Shit, I knew one of the O-linemen was. I forgot. My bad.
I must have been in 5th place.
Oh man,
I swear all the guys on defense told me they voted for me twice, man. Jay Richardson, David Patterson, Quinn Pickock, they all told me they voted for me twice, man. I think Tress threw some of them votes out.
Like they got the Democratic ballot coming in.
Yeah, exactly. That's a dictatorship, bro. That's a dictatorship.
See, I wish that you were a captain. Like, if you would have played now, I mean, we elect like 7 captains, 8 captains. I mean, Urban had 13 captains in one year. You probably would have been 14th that year, though. I mean, they probably would have put, they would have had Chucky.
Anybody who played football in 2006 at Ohio State or in the Big Ten knew who ran the Buckeyes team, man. That's all I know.
Yep, Doug Daddish. So I love this play action pass look, and this is good by Josh Fryer. Stays low. I think he could be even lower here. I mean, honestly, something that I hate, and this is a pet peeve of mine as a guy that coached the offensive line, and the one thing that I hate is when you screw your buddies. And this isn't really screwing Donnie Jackson because Indiana's terrible, but if this is a werewolf, if this is Aiden Hutchinson or some guy who's a real D-end who is a guy that can actually get to the quarterback. When there's a G here, a guy who's inside shade of the guard, you really don't have to go down flying down here that hard. Something that I'd always say on like a play action like this is I would go take a left flat step, keep my eye on this guy, and then take a post foot and put my hand here to keep this guy wide. So when the 3 technique is coming to kick this guy, he's just wider. We ran the same protection against Alabama in 2014 down at the Sugar Bowl. And it drove me nuts because I'm like, Billy Price or whoever's playing that guard has some guy screaming off the edge, and our tackle is just like screwing. He's just going down there. And again, I think he's too high. He could be lower here. And but again, this guy's terrible. So you get away with it against Indiana, but when you're playing Georgia or a team that's actually good or has a guy that can actually run and isn't this guy, if he doesn't bite, I mean, he's. That's a tough kick out for this guard. If this guy's not just, screwing around closing, if this guy comes off the rock, that is a rough, and it doesn't have to be, but
Friar Tuck got a little excited coming off the ball, man. He was looking for some of them apples down there, trying to get a little bit of that Robin Hood money, man. I mean, dude, he goes almost, he goes across almost 2 to 3 gaps. Look, from where the center starts, he's going all the way across the hash mark.
I mean, he's back. He's
gone.
Harris. Look at him.
He's gone. You can't even see him right now. He's disappeared. So you're not square to the line of scrimmage to be able to stop and help anything if it's coming back around from any linebackers or anybody folding over. And B, as you mentioned, why go all the way down there and just vacate the B gap when you could just take a little step inside and then literally you don't even need to look at that defensive end. Just know where he's going to be at and just like punch him in the freaking throat. Right. Just like one little jab
put
punch.
a hand out right there. Yeah.
I mean,
'Cause
like Shane Olivier used to be great at that. Like he wouldn't
yeah,
even be looking, and the defensive end wouldn't even think that like 71 had anything to do with them, and then he would just hit him with just a right, just snap off a punch right to the dude's side of his head, and he would just throw the defensive end off. You would see him; he would lose his track. He would have to arc out, and that just helps your guard, as you said, help your buddy.
yeah. I mean, this guy could be, and again, it's Indiana, but again, you always want to be as close to perfect as you can. And I would just hold that guy because again, like, you know, and Josh, since there's literally, unless this guy does this, there's no real threat of
Right.
of an issue. I mean, he should be way lower than this. He's too high. Now, granted, you know, these safeties aren't good. The linebackers, they still bite on it because, you know, the hard fake to pull guard. We never pull guard, so they automatically think it's a run. But this could be a lot better because this is like this is probably the easiest block in football. Steelers doesn't have to block anybody, and he could go down here and smash this guy's hip and make a big pile up. But instead, he's too high. You know, he hits him too high. And again, I'm not picking on Josh. I'm saying like you could make this shit way better. You know,
No, I'm picking on Josh. Like, I get it, dude. It's your first start, but where are you going? I can't even see you right now. You have disappeared behind 3 offensive linemen that are actually working, and you're like, what are you staring at this guy that folds over on the backside? Like, what are you doing, bro? Come on, man. I mean, those are just the little things. Those are the things
yeah,
that I've harped on all season long. Do the little things right. You know, I get it. You're a little bit overzealous. I remember my first start in a horseshoe. It was against the Michigan Wolverines, and like literally my hand couldn't stop shaking as I'm down in my stance, and my offhand that's like your trigger hand that's not in the dirt is like literally like my fingers are twitching. But you have to be able to block that out and just understand like, hey, there's a job to be done here. There's no reason to vacate and just totally disappear like that. Like he's seriously down there bobbing for apples.
yeah. And I mean, this is, you know, like one thing that I wish, and I don't know if this would ever be possible, but I just wish that we would be nastier and put these guys on the ground because like you have this giant cluster. You have 5 guys blocking 3 guys. Like you got to punish these guys a little bit. You don't. I mean, our guys are literally just all standing here. You know, and again, that's just me, but it's like, you know, when you've got 3 on 5, it should be like a prison beatdown. It shouldn't be like
Patty cake, patty cake, patty cake.
But I mean, like, you know,
They-
you could go. I mean, you could tee off on those guys because again, like, those are just that's just cumulative trauma when you knock those guys out.
Now
Like that.
listen, let me ask you something, man, because
What's up?
obviously we know that there's been a lot of changes in the rules around football, not only college football but high school, and they've pretty much ruined the NFL. Do you think a lot of these guys are being coached up now, or they're saying, hey, listen, let's not take a kill shot because maybe we get flagged for it, and maybe it ends up being a 50-yard CJ Stroud home run ball. So do you think guys are pulling up and not taking those kill shots or those dominating shots because they're worried that the official is going to throw a flag on it for unnecessary roughness, or for they'll say you torqued your hips and that's a holding call, even though that's horse crap? I mean, do you think guys are letting up because of the way the game has changed with the officiating?
I don't think. I mean, it could be, but I don't know how you could ever coach like that. Like I would, you know, like you know, when I coached with Ed Warner in 12, like we used to call it like because he coached Kansas, and Kansas is known for ribs, so he used to call it saucing the ribs. Like when there's a slide, and like it's like when there's like a slide and you have like an inside shade on you, and you know you got like Nick Mangold next to you, and he's got that guy locked down, and then you see
Oh,
Rob Sims is out at left tackle, and you can
Rob's
go out
over
and
there
just
munching on the ribs.
yeah, well, you can, but you know, you can go out and kill that DN. Like, there's nothing illegal about
Oh,
that. You know, I
it's
mean,
the best.
you can go running out there and just flatline that guy because it's like, you know, why would you when you don't you're just standing there with your hand like this, humping Nick, or you know, if you're playing left guard like this, and Rob's out there battling, and you can turn and just go kill that guy like
What
a
people don't
charging
understand
bull.
is when you have that pressure on pressure and somebody comes from the side and hits you, I mean, you're just going to go into orbit. I mean,
Yeah,
because you don't see it, you don't feel it. And that pressure from
yeah,
your guy, most of the time, like your center, as you mentioned, if like a Nick Mangold has a guy stood up and that guard comes over and peels that dude back, I mean, the guy who's locked up on him, just hang on to him and keep your hands inside, and you're just going to finish him and just pancake him into the ground.
yeah. This is a little 6-man protection. Looks like, I mean, yeah, we've got 6. They're bringing 5. This is a little zone blitz where, they kind of middle of the field drop the ends instead of, the traditional zone drop. I mean,
Good
I
job by the
think
right guard.
this is
Good
a
job by the right guard.
great
Folding job.
great
He
job.
doesn't. A lot of guards wouldn't fold back on us here because they would think about staying in their lane. But because he gets. If you can kind of see from the beginning there, remember we used to teach to be on the same plane. The
Yeah,
offensive guard, the right guard, is actually a little bit further behind than everybody else on the offensive line in that plane right there. He's like a guy back. He's like a half a stride length back. And that allows him to see that, hey, my right tackle is actually going to take this pinching end. How about I fold back here and pick this dude up instead of technically, by definition of this blocking scheme, that's the hot guy. One of those guys is for the back, the other guy's the hot guy.
yeah.
So
I
the
mean,
guard says, "Hey, let me help out my quarterback and just pick him up for him." That's
yeah, I
good.
mean,
That's good play right there. That's extra. I like that.
yeah, I think that this is the guy that they gave to the back. I mean, because he's not covering anybody. Like, he's just out here. I mean, there ain't nobody around him. So, he's blitzing. I mean, because he ain't got nothing else to do. And then it's like, I think this is just like a Florida, this is a Florida. We used to call this the Florida blitz. So it's like, here, except that, back then we used to drop here, but it's like loop, big stick here. I mean, really, this is one where if Josh Fryer, if this wasn't his first start, I get it because he's probably so amped up to get on this guy. But if he sees this, like, I mean, again, once you've walked through this 10,000 times like we did, I mean, my God, it's like you're gonna see this, and as soon as this guy goes, this guy's gonna go, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, it's Florida, and you just sit there, and this guy literally runs right into you, and this guy runs into you.
At that point, you just pass it off. You just pass it off.
That's what
I mean about being on the same plane. If you're on the same plane, you can pass stuff off. If you're like this, the guard wisely folds behind.
Yeah, like this is great by Max. He just saves a hit on the quarterback, but it doesn't have to be that hard. But again, this is his first start, so there's going to be, and again, and they got it blocked, but it's just like you could make this even easier.
Well, look, you can see how overzealous he is right now, and it's smart because the guard backs up and sees it because he just buries his head right into the sky. Like the guard sees that, he's like, "There's no way this dude's coming off," because Josh Fryer just buried his helmet into that pinching defensive end, so he's locked up. He's sold out on that block.
Yeah, and Marvin makes a great catcher. Paris has got the easiest block in football, looping 3 technique. That is his against. Look at this turd.
That's easier than the last. That's easier than the last block you said was the easiest block.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is like you get like a looping nose guard who runs about a 5.4 40. I mean, that's about as easy as it gets when you're PJ. PJ's used to going against guys that run, well, in the Big Ten 4.8, but probably in like a good league 4.4, 4.5. So Marv, Louis Vuitton, Don, flexing. So got a week to go before Michigan. Wrap the film up for now. We are already at 32 minutes. Good Lord. Time flies when you're doing good. TJ, what do you want to see Ohio State improve on the most against Maryland as we lead into the game versus Michigan, which will likely be a 2-3 showdown in the shoe?
I think really just making sure, again, just getting the small stuff taken care of. If you're not working on that constantly, especially when you're playing a team that shouldn't be on the same playing field as you, that's not as good and well equipped and well coached, and if you're still to this day, I mean, you and I going all the way back to the Notre Dame game, we're pointing out on the game-winning drive, bad footwork, sloppy hands, a lack of attitude, a lot of guys maybe not with a sense of urgency. I want to see more of a sense of urgency out of guys. I want to see guys that, like you mentioned, finish some dudes, put them on the ground. Let's go out here and leave 3 hours worth of tape from Michigan to look at and think, okay, shoot, this offensive line actually might have it together, so we better come strapped up, because I think right now at times, especially after last season, the defensive line yes, for Michigan, they don't respect us. There's no respect.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is they don't fear us anymore. I mean, they beat us last year.
Hey, and respect is earned, man. So you got to go out there and earn it.
Yeah, and they, we beat them like, for 20 years we lost them, I think, in 03, and that was it, and then 11. So, since 03, I mean, literally in 20 years, we lost them in 11, that was Luke Fickell's year, 6-7, the worst Ohio State team literally in history, a 7-loss Ohio State team, which is unconscionable to think about today, but it happened in 11, and that was their only loss. So I don't think they fear us because they dog walked us last year up there, and again, I always harp on it. It's like you can't walk into a fist fight. Like last year, we walked into a fist fight. We thought it would be easy. We looked at the Michigan State game. We beat Michigan State 60 to or whatever, 56-7 or whatever it was. And then Michigan State actually beat Michigan somehow, and it was like a close game, like a 35-28 or whatever it was. And we beat the tar out of Michigan State. And I think people look at that. I think they look at comparative scores and they say, oh, well, how could we ever lose this? Like I remember we played, Purdue in 2003, and Purdue lost to Bowling Green to open their season up. And then it takes us overtime to beat them, and we're number 2 in the country. So it's like, you can't look at the schedules. Every game's going to be fresh, and they're going to bring it. But the one thing that gives me a lot of faith is we are a different team at home. We play really well at home. We start fast generally. We've scored a lot of points at home. It's not the Saturday sleepies like it's at Northwestern and some of the other places where we go. So I look forward to that. I think that our guys are going to be juiced up senior day, which I hate senior day just because, I don't need all the extra pomp. It's enough just to play in a game and get all gassed up playing a game. Then it's like you got to go wait for everybody to get roses and kiss their parents and all that. I'm just
get
like,
that extra pump in, man.
Oh,
you're in the weight room trying to get that extra pump, man. I understand, man. There's a lot going on.
I'm in there like, look, can we just play the game? We're gonna give everybody roses.
I know you're a little overly
flowers.
Emotional, man. I know, man.
No,
I
just
all teared up down there, but
I was ready to go kill people, and it's like when they pause it from going to kill people, it's hard because like. When I was out there, I didn't cut no deals. I didn't play no games, and I was not screwing around.
Damn, bro, it was like that.
Yeah, it was like that.
You ain't cut no deals out there.
Yes, the guys that practice against me, man. The guys practice against me, like and I'm not saying it. They're the ones say Bobby and those guys. They said we used to hate going against Kirk because I was nuts.
You ain't cut no deals, man.
David Patterson, I was like, man, I walked out there, man. I was trying to kill you, and I don't care. It's like I'll give you my.
I was out there. I was out there cutting deals with Kenny Peterson, man. Talking about let me get some of them nothing but cakes.
Yeah, he was out there whistling in the wheat field. I was out there. I was about that action, boy. But it's all good. You learned from me, even though I'm younger than you. It was fine.
Oh yeah. Here we go. Here we go. End the show on that note.
That's a good note to end it on. You probably ain't gonna get no cakes either, but you are a cake eater at guard, so I do get it. Out of tackle, you can't eat no cake. You gotta stay lean and mean. So it's all good, man. But we'll do a big show next week. Talk a little bit about the Michigan game, what it means to you. Obviously, your dad played there. That was crazy. Your dad used to be up at Ann Arbor wearing his Letterman coat with your jersey underneath on the field, which was awesome. So it'll be good. But any final thoughts for the Buckeye Scoop Nation as we close this thing out?
Man, running backs, get healthy. Just get healthy. God. Everybody get out of the boots. You don't need to be in a boot in the middle of November. Running backs get healthy. Offensive line, bring an attitude that you can change your attitude in a couple days. I think your attitude is something that can change on a daily basis. It's how you choose to go about things. You can wake up with a new mindset. I believe in that. I firmly believe in it. It's not that, hey, maybe for 8-9 weeks of the season, we feel a little soft. Okay, get your guys together. Somebody step up. Be a freaking leader, and say, we're not going to sit here and have TJ and Kirk, 2 guys who used to get nastier and shit up on the offensive line, talk smack about us. So come out here and say, all right, here, I got something to show you. Okay. I want to see that from them. And I want to see them carry that over through Maryland, it's a business trip, go down there and understand it the following week. It's all on the line. It's the game. It's different. Dealing with a lot of the hoopla. Obviously, it's not going to be 1 versus 2 like what we had, but 2 versus 3. Eyes of the nation, eyes of the world, the college football world, Scoop Nation, Scoop World. All of us our eyes are going to be right on you guys. So it's time to shine. Open it up. Let it go.
You drink your little glass of that old granddad with some of that turkey you have on Thursday. Maybe loosen you up a little bit, like Bad Santa does. So, all right, fellas, I'm going to wrap this thing up. Thank you, TJ. As always, I appreciate you, my dog. That was a great episode, TJ Downing, exclusive to BuckeyeScoop.com. One of our best contributors, one of the best members of the entire team, guy that's played it, a guy that's lived it. Great insight into what it is to be an interior lineman. So with that being said, appreciate you guys. Comment down below. What do you want to see out of the Maryland game? I need to hear it from you guys. Is it, you want to see this interior running game get short yardage? You let me know what it is. Appreciate you guys as always. And shout out where you are from. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, subscribe to the content, click on the little bell, and you'll get an alert every time we post, which is every single day. We have fresh Ohio State content for all of Buckeye Nation. So thank you guys. So in closing, thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. Appreciate you. Talk to you guys soon. Go Bucks.